March meeting of the EDC shall come to order. It's 7:05. We'll do roll call. Larry Fish here.
Brian Smith here.
Okay, thank you. We have no minutes to approve because they haven't been done yet. Well, are these? Oh, they're attached here. Okay, all right. So does anybody have any issues with the minutes that from the December meeting where we were preparing for the planning board's work session? Anything? All the punctuation and everything else? Oh, okay, so we're all set? All right, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Tom Rowcroft sends the motion. Brian, you're going to second it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. There's nobody here from the public. There's no correspondence, correct? Okay. Discussion. So, what do we want to tackle first here? You want? Yeah. Let's recap the joint meeting with the planning board first. All right, and I thought it went well, other than now we have to use these microphones. Anybody have any? I mean, come on. You know, I have a meeting every Thursday morning, and before we start the meeting, there's 50 people in the room, and one of the guys is a personal trainer, and so we get up and we do YMCA, or we move around, and it gets everybody going, and everybody's awake. Yeah, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. Maybe we should be doing that at night. I'd pay to see that. Go ahead.
Well, I thought it was a useful meeting. I thought the tenor of it was very dense. Back and forth. It was good. I would have liked to have heard more from the planning board and less from the EDC. But as I recall it, I thought it was a relatively productive meeting. We got them to agree that they would follow up on a couple of things. We agreed to follow up on a couple of things. Thought it was useful.
I'm just concerned about the main item on the agenda with the commercial highway, that they met with us, and I didn't come across, didn't get warm fuzzies that it was going to happen. It was going to happen on its own time frame. That was in cahoots with the Horsley Witten action that the planning board is working. I think they're going to take the whole thing at once. I just thought it should have been something that they would schedule something on their agenda to start to address it, and it was mainly saying, yes, we agree, but we're going to wait for Horsley Witten to get done and then work on what we discussed in Horsley Witten. What do you think, Tom?
Basically, I'd agree. You know, it seemed that they agreed with our statements, but that the priority wasn't that they were going to move very quickly.
It was just going to. It was the wheels of government were just going to continue to go at the pace that they were. And I mean that's what happens. But that's what I think they agree with most of what we had to say in our recommendations. And I think that they will happen, but they're not going to happen in 6 months.
Well, but that was unrealistic for us to expect that in any case, if we had expected that. Well, there were a couple of things they did agree among themselves that they should address the parking regulations, which need to be, I just fear they need to be more drastically changed than they're probably going to change them. But that would be a step in the right direction, and I think they were trying to make it clear to us that the issue is more complicated than the way Jay wants to see it, of just sort of establishing some new density number and then going for it. And so that was reasonable for them to do as well, because it is, we can't do what Will Green's students want us to do, which is to tear everything down and build it up again, because there's no money to do that, probably not much willingness. So it is going to be a process that's going to have to be a little bit incremental, and I think we definitely got it on their wavelength, and that, I think, is a good thing.
Right. Jay, before you speak, I thought you did an excellent job presenting the density aspect of it, and I think it was everybody understood it. And I thought you did a great job. It was unfortunate you were sick, and you couldn't stay the whole meeting. However, I think you should be thanking your lucky stars, because I think you would have been frustrated, that it wasn't going to take right off and get work done. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that you were not at the end.
You know, it is really unfortunate that government doesn't understand what it can do, and what it can do rapidly. And, you know, I really don't get it, because what you need are basic guidelines, and then you let the property owners do what they want to do. If you're going to re-engineer the whole Dale Carlia corner, set architectural standards, and do all these things, it's going to take forever, number one, and number two, it won't work. But, you know, it's just a simple matter of establishing the basics like you have everywhere else in the town, and it's just unfortunate that the planning board doesn't get that. It's not a complicated matter. It's a matter of side setback, front setback. It's a matter of making sure that all the regulations concerning bedroom windows on the upstairs and the requirement to have, you know, it's going to be mixed use, which you're going to do about first floor, second floor, you're going to allow business on first and second floor. It is not complicated, but government has the ability to make everything complicated. It really does. It really does, and it's just unfortunate. So I'm glad I didn't stay. I'm happy that I was sick. I was sick for another 3 weeks.
One of the impressions I had is, having done our interviews with the property owners along Old Tower Hill Road, the perspective that I took away was that they wanted change. Whereas the planning board, I think, is looking at the larger group, not just the property owners on that road, but the entire South Kingstown population. It seems that they're worried about their potentially being pushed back, not from the property owners, but from the general public. That was a read I had.
But I think you're right, and I think that's unfortunate too, because there are people in this town that are going to push back on anything that you want to do, and they're a vocal minority, and that's unfortunate because they tend to rule the town. They really do, and it's just you know, I guess, you know, I've done all I can do. You know, at a certain point you say, well, it's in God's hands. Or in this case, it's in the planning board's hands, and, you know, I mean, that's it.
We have no power, we're
Yeah.
advisory, and we've advised them, so we're thankful for that. And this time, it was a positive outcome. It's going to happen, it's just not what we want to have it happen. And
It's not, I'm not a
Been talking
property
about
owner,
this
so
for
it's
years.
not me, it's not
right,
me.
you have no horse, no dog in the fight, but,
No dog in the fight.
Henry?
One more thing, you know, I gave them, and I hope, Rob, that maybe you can, you know, as you see your way clear, the 10 recommendations that I made, I think were pretty important, and they may have been somewhat, you know, self-explanatory. I mean, they were definitely that, but maybe they were just obvious. But things like battery chargers for electric cars, things like allowing a tunnel to go through to the back of the buildings for parking, there were 10 recommendations, and boy, I would like to see those kept in front of the planning board so that they can at least consider them. I'd hate to see that piece of paper just thrown away and not considered.
Well, I think, don't forget, before they change the ordinances or change the use codes or anything else, there'll be public input. And at that point in time, we can revisit it and forward them our recommendations and also a public hearing. You'll be able to speak personally. Also, if we want to speak as a committee, we can do that. So it's in the process. You're not, it's not just one and done. You still got a couple of bites more left of the apple. Henry?
Okay, excuse me. Frankly, I was in a bit of a quandary listening to that. And the thing that put me into a quandary more than anything is Maria Mack, God bless her, said at least 2 or 3 times about the development of a strategic plan. And having worked on a lot of things in government, strategic plans can be used for like 1 or 2 reasons. One is to develop a vision of where you want to go and what you want to do. The other thing is that it can get so big and so unruly that it becomes estoppel. And I mean, it's a method of stopping or slowing something down. Tactical plans are completely different. Tom, you've done project planning, I think. So the only thing I can say is I'm really concerned that in the development of a strategic plan, there is so much public input put into it that the plan becomes so big, so unwieldy, and no one will ever read it. And 10 years from now, we're right back here talking about what we were talking about before. The other thing that...
Horsley Witten will get another $100,000.
Yeah, and then the other thing that worries me is that the re-engineering or renovation of downtown Wakefield will cost millions of dollars. I mean, there's no question of it. What that number is, I'm not really sure. So that's out there for the town. But then over on the side here is the school committee. And I went to that meeting, and now all of a sudden, here's an $85 million proposal. And Bob went through some of the numbers of what it would cost each household in property tax and each business. So the thing is, you can only walk and chew gum so many different ways. And I think for this town to take on 2 rather sizable projects is somewhat dangerous. You know? Yeah. There's the. No, they're talking. They were talking about.
No, I mean, you said 2 things.
The 2 things is, the Wakefield, Saugatucket River project, the Will Green project's 1. The school system building re-engineering is 2. I mean, we like to think we can walk and chew gum, but still, how much can we really chew up? How much can we ask these taxpayers to put the bill for?
I don't think that the Saugatucket River project, where I really would like to see it done, and done sooner rather than later, because I think it's really great. I think it would have tremendous public support, both financially and boots on the ground. River walk around the river and amphitheater. That will come secondary to the schools always. And I think for it to become a reality and get engineered and that kind of thing, we're going to have to find the money in clean water or walking trails, bike paths, or we're going. This is. I don't see it coming from the taxpayers at all. I don't think that it's right to ask the taxpayers. The committee is going to be doing a bond like that. So I think that it's onus on us and maybe the planning board to guide us where they know where there's some funds available and to stash it. And then we get the engineering design done first with something. And I think you'll find some community members that will pitch in either in like kind at the different stages or with financial to get to the next stage. I really think that it's going to have to come that way. But I think it should come, but it's not like the town's going to go out there and ask for a $3 million bond to do a walkway around the river and design it and everything else. I do not feel comfortable with that.
Is, Rob, hello. Rob, the planning department, are they looking actively for grants for things like this? I mean, I know they were in the past, but you're down one actually.
Yeah, we've got a senior planner coming on board in the next couple of weeks. So one of the things that he'll be charged with doing is sort of beginning to develop a new program around grants. There's an awful lot of work that needs to be done. We've just received notice, for example, that the Washington County housing program down the street on Main Street there will no longer be doing our CDBG work. They're getting out of the business of managing CDBGs. So our community development block grant program is going to have to be administered in-house, or we're going to have to find an alternative way to deal with that. Just that piece is going to be, time-consuming and take up a lot of energy.
It's going to be huge.
It's a
Big job.
it's a complicated program in a lot of ways. I mean, it's everything under the sun is potentially eligible, and you potentially have applications from all over the place.
The town has received a lot of CDBG money in the past.
It's been a good program. The program's been around forever. It was a 1972 Nixon-era initiative, and has been sort of the bread and butter of a lot of municipal programs. Less in the last decade, but for a long time it's been just a huge help for communities. So as far as sort of actively looking at philanthropic grants, no, we don't generally go out and about looking for philanthropic grants from foundations and that kind of thing. We will react to notices that we receive if we have the capacity, but there's no dedicated grants person in South Kingstown. We'd have a grant writer on staff. Doug McLean did do that work when he was here to the extent that it got done, but it was another duty as assigned, and it continues to be. We had a meeting, in fact, yesterday or the day before, with John Schock and Rich Bourbonnais, the town engineer, and Kaylin Jay, and we were sort of strategizing about how we could develop a more effective grants program. What we sort of struck on was, first, we have to get the information all in one place. If somebody gets a notice or hears about a grant or finds something while they're doing research, we need a repository so that it's available to everybody and everybody knows about it. And the next thing we need to do is sort of build a repository of grant applications that we've made and can borrow from or plagiarize from, so that we're not constantly rewriting the section about, the demographics in South Kingstown, and we're not constantly rewriting the priorities of the council. And then I was advocating for putting that out online for the boards and committees to have access to and use. We had a somewhat heated discussion about whether we could really, democratize an internal database or an internal system that way, whether we'd, how we would control to make sure that we don't have rogue committee members going off and writing, grants for things that we don't have the match for, or writing grants that really don't meet the council's objectives, that kind of thing. I'm not personally very concerned about that. I think, sometimes many hands does make light work. And I think that, we have very, very capable board members, folks who have very successfully written grants, and if we can give them a tool, I'd like to be able to do that. It changes, and you've noticed over the last several months that we've been trying to change the relationship between Town Hall and the boards and committees a little bit, so that the boards and committees have a little bit more high profile and are engaged in conversation. So one of the things we need to talk about tonight is the report to the Town Council on Monday. That's another way that we're going to make sure that we've got committees engaged with the Town Council and communicating with the council and the public. I'd like to see us sort of figure out how to tap into the incredible human resource we've got in the boards and committees and have board and committee members writing grant applications. Now, we have to make sure that the committees aren't writing their own grants and not telling Town Hall about it, but, you know, if we can come up with a set of procedures, you find a neat grant, you send a note to the staff says, yeah, that sounds interesting, go ahead. We checked, the match will be available, there's no match, it's an in-kind match, we can deal with it. Or they simply say, we can't do this when we just don't have the match, and that kind of thing. At that point, you know you've got a go, and we know that we've got somebody out there making an attempt, which is a good thing.
Could you, could you give a little update on what you talked about on the update to the council and that kind of thing? Because I don't believe anybody at this committee has been informed of that. Hold on, Jay.
Yes. We've talked about this. I've raised this before. One of the things that we have talked about doing, and the council has changed their agenda. So the council meeting agenda now is different in that there is a place on the agenda, I think it's item 10, where each week or each council meeting, there will be a report, brief oral report, PowerPoint, whatever, however fancy people want to make it, or as simple as people want to make it. But an opportunity for each board or committee to come before the council and tell the council what's going on, what the issues are, what the best thing that's happened in the last 6 months is, that kind of thing. And it's just a way to bring some rhythm, just bring some regularity to the reporting to the town council and the interaction. What I think you're going to find, we'll see, because we had one board that was ready to do its presentation at the last council meeting, and that was the chicken council meeting, so it didn't happen because discussion of yeah, exactly. So the Dave Flanders from the Conservation Commission couldn't stay after 10 o'clock. He had to leave, so that conversation didn't happen. So you guys are actually the first ones up. The interaction, I think, is going
Wait a
to
minute, when are we up?
on Monday night.
Monday?
Monday night.
Do we have somebody who's making a presentation?
Henry. So again, what I think you're going to see is you're going to see, it can be as casual as you like. I mean, you've seen the council meetings. The council here is wonderful. They're looking for information. They're not looking to grill people. And I think what you're going to find is you're going to get questions from the council members that spark ideas, that give you thoughts about what they'd like to see. And it's not going to be sort of directives, but it's direction, I think you're going to find.
I got informed, I think, yesterday morning, and I'm leaving tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for vacation for 10 days. And I said, when am I supposed to give an update? And he said, well, yeah, this coming Monday. And I said, well, then my vice chair, second chair, would have to provide that. And I think it's mostly a recap of that we met with the planning board, and this is what came out of it, just what we talked about 10 minutes ago.
And heck, if you want to use Jay's slides, you can.
But Henry, one of the, at, for, no, it's just a 5-minute thing of what we've been working on. You can mention the Saugatuck River, they're informed about that, and that we're trying to find them funds since they didn't fund it, right? And I think that we can give them an update on commercial highway and density, height, and parking restrictions. You know, just a brief thing, not a 10-minute thing. And every time, we're going to be doing this on a regular basis, like every 6 months, Rob? Or once a year, or what is it?
So the schedule that's been developed is basically once a year for every board and committee, although I've got some holes, and I think that there are going to be some boards and committees that are going to want to report out more often. So I imagine CDC, CDC, boy, COVID-19 on the brain here.
You got to take on coronavirus now,
There you
too?
go. I think the EDC is likely one of those committees that's going to want to report out,
I was going to say, since we're first, yeah, I don't have a problem with doing that. Henry might, but I don't have a problem with it. But I want another bite at the apple when we're prepared.
Absolutely.
And so,
So I'll get you guys the schedule, you'll see where the holes are, and, you can decide.
but for this committee, the last thing, every time we go before them, is to ask them, we're advisory to the planning board and to the town council. So the last thing that we asked, though we talked to them about, is there anything economic that any of the 5 members would be interested in using our services to go through and come back? Because I'm always looking. That's the last thing we did with the planning board was, is there anything on your list that you would like us to delve into? All right? Same thing, whether it's every 6 months, once a year, because you really don't get the work sessions with them. But at every work session we've ever had with a town council or a planning board, the last issue is there anything that you guys would like? Because we are advisory, and we can run with the ball. Hopefully if they ask for it, then when we bring it to them, maybe there'd be action, or more action than there has been in the past. Jay?
I hope this is not in lieu of a working session annually with the town council. In the past, we've had a working session with the town council theoretically every year. It's been more like every other year. So I hope that these briefings are not going to be in lieu of those working meetings. They are? Or
No, they're not. I mean, again, the idea here is to just bring the reports every council meeting, so the council is hearing from the boards and committees. These are not substitutes for a work session. There's not going to be an extensive give and take. More than one member of a committee can come and give the report. There's no need for it to be just one. But it's 5 minutes. It's not a work session.
Back to the grants. I'm sorry, I was in the process of interrupting you there, and I shouldn't have been, but I wanted to say something more about the grants. The University of Rhode Island has an extremely high success rate because they have people who are dedicated professional grant seekers. I'm wondering if we couldn't contact them and get them to give us a training session, some pointers on where to look, on how to pursue a grant, maybe give us some copies of some of their grants that they've been successful on. Or maybe we already have those skills in-house, I don't know. But if we don't, they're a resource that we probably could draw on.
Yeah, I mean, I have no aversion to reaching out to URI, and when Brian, the new senior planner, comes on, we may make that suggestion and give him the time to go up and do it. I will say, in my experience, grant writing is an odds game. It's just a numbers game. You got to throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. It's really a matter of just getting the grants out.
But as far as seeking out possible grants or things like that. I don't know, maybe perhaps they're in the CBD, or I don't know where you find them, but, you know, that would be helpful, probably a training session for maybe one session for anybody from any board who wanted to come.
Yeah, I mean, the university grant universe is going to be different than the municipal grant universe, but.
They're all from the government,
Oh,
pretty
no,
much.
no.
Pretty,
No,
well, a
there's
lot of them.
a lot of foundation money, even
Yeah.
for municipal activity, things that matter to municipalities. But it's dribs and drabs and little grants here and little grants there, and, you know, rarely do you see the, you know, whopping $100,000 grant that's going to make a profound difference. They're the $4,000 and the $5,000 and the $10,000 grants. And an application that is, you know, failing application after application after application may just hit the right board or the right reviewer and is successful. You just got to get them out there.
So,
Can I just say that this is one of the advantages of having a strategic plan, is that there's an awful lot of information that's already been written in a fairly cogent way and reflects something that has been vetted by the community, and therefore can actually provide the kind of background information that you need to put in these grants. So if part of what you offer online could become a Word version that you can strip and copy from rather than the PDF version, that would be really nice. And the other thing I was going to say is that Kayla mentioned at the work session, joint work session, that she was looking for somebody from the Bike Ped group was putting together a list of possible granting organizations, and I offered to look around and see what I thought might service us. I've done a little bit of that already, and I did follow up a little bit with Caleb, but I haven't done as much as I could, and I do promise I'll keep on that.
One sec. The Rhode Island Foundation is getting very active. They do a lot of grants, but they're also getting into helping municipalities. They're thinking outside the box, but they're economic development focused, they're recreation focused, clean water focused, and that kind of thing. So I think that they might be interested, at least in doing the engineering and bringing it to exactly how much are we talking, and the concept. I think that they would be one also. Susan, you can add that to your list. Go ahead, Brian.
So Rob, before you got here, I wrote a Homeland Security grant for South Kingston. It's a modest, I think I gave you the document.
So that's exactly the kind of thing that I think having a repository open to the committees and the boards will facilitate. Having that document for others to tap into or modify as they see an opportunity. Again, I think the thing that we're going to have to work out is just the communication. We're just going to have to make sure that staff is involved and can say, hey, yes, we've got a green light, go ahead and make that application. What we don't want to have happen is have a committee member volunteer their time, make fill out an application, come looking for a signature on it, and we have to say, we can't afford a $50,000 match, or we can't commit to the staff time associated with it. We're working through the process. I think that there's got to be some sort of pre-application, pre-labor, effort vetting, so that we can at least get confirmation that if we were successful, we could handle the work on the back end to get the grant going.
I write grants at URI. It's not my primary job, and a lot of departments at URI, each department brings, they have a grant office, but they just administer. Biology department, engineering department, whatever they want to do with it, graduate school of oceanography, the professors write, they write their own grants, but then it is administered by the grants office. It's up to each department, so I write it from my department. I look for them. And if I get to the director and say, you do this, yes or no?
So as you come across stuff, an email with, a link off to the page that might be of interest, if it finds its way into the repository, others now have access to it, and we're working from one page.
Just going back to, I would imagine a lot of municipalities are looking for funding. There's no central database of grants available?
There's lots of central data, lots of them. Yeah.
I get daily messages every day. New grants are-
All right, that's the feeling is more.
That's just federal.
.gov.
There's a lot of private,
Yeah.
like you said, foundations.
There's the old the catalog of federal domestic assistance, and then there's the foundations, and you can sign up, and we do, and we get notices. I probably get 2 or 3 notices about about grants a day. Yeah.
A lot of those federal grants are more money than
They're all competitive.
Let the record show that Mr. Jim O'Neill, former town council member, has joined the meeting.
Thank you. Jim, I'll get to you in 1 sec, all right? Because I want to finish what we're on.
So we're still on
So
Saugatuck.
on Monday, while we were talking about Saugatuck, I think we've hit that. You have anything else to say about Saugatuck?
Yeah, I think that we really need to look at state agencies like the DEM and get our legislative staff to push them for money to clean up the river.
It's not only DEM, but believe it or not, Maria Mack told me about DOT had hundreds of thousands of dollars because it's stormwater runoff. That's one of the biggest issues with the Saugatucket
We do have legislative,
itself, but their DOT is under federal guidelines that they have to spend money taking care of it, and they're looking for areas to take care of it.
I just wonder how well we are, we need to communicate internally within the town, but I think we also have got to really make sure that we're using our legislative representatives. There are 5 of them, and they've got to have some voice in the State House. So I would hope that we would start doing that. I don't think we've done a very good job of it in the past. And quite frankly, I'm kind of disappointed that I guess maybe they go to the town council meetings, but we've never seen any of them here at the EDC meetings.
We can invite them. I mean,
We probably should.
I don't think that they're avoiding us.
No, we
They're-
probably
they're-
should.
Right now, this time of year, they're up at the State House, every night.
Right.
So, all right, after the Saugatucket, we talked about the Monday meeting, and I kind of gave Henry a synopsis of how long it is with Rob's help, and the last question we want to ask. Does anybody else have any input while we're here on this for Monday? So Henry can prepare for it.
It's a very long-term thing. We've mentioned it before, but we've got in 2 years the anniversary. So I don't know if it would be appropriate to.
Anything on that?
They just start planning for that.
Yeah.
It takes about a year to plan.
Westerly did a great job on theirs. They just had it, and I think they did a really good job. They had a website, different souvenirs. No, it's on. It's just,
Yeah, it's on.
What-
His little light is on.
okay.
Are you
So-
getting text messages?
Sorry.
All right, okay.
So Westerly did a good job on that, for example, but it would take some long-term planning.
Right.
So maybe it's a little too early, but just to put it
That's a
on.
good thing to ask, that's ask.
Not only planning, but money.
We did that in Richmond, we had 250th, and they had fundraising and golf tournaments and all that.
Right.
The town's going to have to budget some money to do that, and then the sooner they start thinking about that.
They had some sponsorships in Wesley, the Washington
did.
Trust and
Right.
a few other big companies came through and supported it.
I know there's one person down there who's been buying up homes and businesses, who's really influencing the town and starting to reshape it, and I forget their name. It'd be great to have a benefactor like that here.
Chuck Royce?
I think so.
Yeah, Chuck Royce.
Right, yeah,
We don't have a Chuck Royce.
right, exactly.
We got a Jim O'Neill.
There you go.
Okay, so we're done with that item on the agenda. We have a public comment thing, so nice to see you. Is there a reason to grace our presence tonight? And if so, go ahead. You got the floor.
A couple calls. I'm up to about 5 now, but is this the place to talk about what's going on with the Wakefield Mall, RIPTA, et cetera? Or is the town council going to be looking at this issue? And I'm concerned because, well, you know Mr. Levy better than anyone, but he was a great friend of this community and an incredible, responsible businessman, owner of that property. And I hate, I think I'm up to 5 calls now. I try to tell people I'm not in the council, call the council members, but that's of great concern. So I just don't know what's happening there.
Okay.
Tell us what these calls were. I don't know if Ms. Levy.
I can enlighten everybody.
Okay, good.
I'm saving you the effort. If you want to correct me on any point, we had issues with tenants complaining that there were homeless sleeping on the benches in the mall, and they had customers saying, "I don't think I'll come back here because I don't want to have my kids exposed to this or that kind of thing." And so the owner of the mall instructed me as the manager of the mall to take the booths out of the general vicinity in the concourse of the mall. So there's no booths where it was really convenient to sleep all day or that kind of thing. There were like cafe booths where there's two benches and a table in between. And so we put those where they weren't accessible to anybody. And now there's only the nice oak booths, benches that are in the mall. He had reached out to RIPTA for some help because the police department kind of informed him that he thought there were homeless people coming. They thought that there were homeless people coming on the bus, and so that was a source of most of the problem. So he talked to RIPTA and didn't get satisfactory responses for RIPTA. It wasn't their problem, that kind of thing. So he told RIPTA that he'd prefer they not to remove the bus stop. And so then RIPTA called state reps, and state reps got involved. RIPTA called the town, and the town planner got involved, and the town manager got involved. And last week, we sat down with the Welcome House, representatives of the Welcome House and the Johnny Cake Center, the town manager, town planner, Mr. Levy came down, and I was there as well, and we discussed the issue. The owner hired SK police details, so to move people along and everything else. And RIPTA did some investigating on what the ridership is and that kind of thing, and who rides the bus and how many ride the bus. The town did some research. The Welcome House went out into the woods, out behind the mall, to see if people were camping out there. Turns out that the Welcome House does this on a regular basis, which I didn't know, as part of their outreach. So we instituted that for a week, last week. And this morning, Rob and I started our day with another follow-up meeting in this room at 8:30 this morning with the same people. RIPTA was actually at the meeting. The town engineer was at the meeting this morning. I think everybody else were the same players. And the town has been tremendous in addressing the issue and the problem. The town has been thinking outside the box. We're moving the bus stop, having it in somewhat related with the reconstruction of Old Tower Hill Road, getting it away from the building. But since the police patrols, since the booths have been, the problem has abated, and the tenants are happy. Welcome House went to every tenant, gave them their cell phone numbers, and if there was any homeless congregating in the mall, they were to call direct. Instead of going to us or the landlord, go direct to them. That's what they wanted. And they would go out and counsel a person. So instead of a police officer moving somebody along so it's somebody else's problem in town, we're reaching out to them to try to help them out of their situation, whatever it might be. And a lot of times, they don't want to be helped. But the Welcome House staff is educated in taking this on and currently do it. So the consensus after this meeting this morning was RIPTA can continue to use the bus stop at the mall, and it's going to stay where it is, and the owner of the mall we stopped having details paying. The property owner of the mall was paying for the police to be in the mall, right? And we're stopping the details because it doesn't look like it's necessary anymore. But the town is going to have more of a presence, cruising in and cruising out so that there's no congregating of that kind. And if there is, Welcome House is going to come in and deal with it. The owner is happy with that. He really appreciated the nonprofits stepping up and going to the table. He was phenomenal what the town has come and tried to do, but reconfiguring the area of where a bus stop can and can't be, there's issues in his leases for how many spaces have to be there. Now, a lot of people can say, well, I go by the mall and there's mostly blacktop. Well, but the leases, not town ordinances, constrict him onto exactly what he can and can't do. And it's not leases with a local company like Appear Cleaners. It's leases with Royal A-Hole from Amsterdam. And that kind of, so that you can't really renegotiate a 50-year lease kind of thing. It's very, very difficult to do, and he won't do that.
How many 50-year leases can he have in that building? There's been so much turnover. How can there possibly be 50-year leases?
Well,
Those Shaws?
it doesn't matter. It only needs to be one. Because they have clauses in the leases saying, I'm guaranteed access 24/7 for X number of parking spots. So if you go and try to put a bus stop out in front of Shaw's, you can't do it. Because if X is 500 and you go to 499, you're in violation of the lease. That's the reality, all right? But I think there's never been a voice raised. It's been a tremendous working relationship, and we think we've solved the problem. And so the bus stop, to answer your question, the bus stop is staying there, and we're working on it to make sure it works itself out. I think just removing the booths was a big, I couldn't believe it. I'm the one that moved the booths, all right? But I didn't think moving the booths so there's just benches would solve the problem, but I think that solved half, if not more than half the problem, it seems, because it turns out that bus stop at the Wakefield Mall, now that's a private property for a public purpose. And since 1971, Jeff Levy and his father before him have allowed the public to use private funds and never requested one dime. Not one dime. We clean up after it, we service it, and we try to allow them to use a parking area that's not generally used all the time, and the people who commute, but things like, 99, an average of 99 riders a day commute to Providence.
That is actually, this route is the most successful route, the most used route in Rhode Island, the express route, among the express routes. Yeah. And he's got 90 commuters who use that lot every single day. That's a lot of commuters.
And there are not very many commuting buses. They're every 15 minutes from 6:15 to 7:40.
There's 5. That's what we were told today. 5 going in the morning and 6 coming back.
Evening. That's right.
And so, Jim, that's why you're getting the phone calls.
I wish everyone understood what a great man Jeff Levy is.
Right.
His dad. They go out of their way to meet this town more than halfway.
Yep.
I think one of the first concerns I saw myself 3 weeks ago, I didn't know where all of a sudden the panhandlers came from.
Right.
They were right at the light.
Yep.
At the gas station. I've never seen almost so many potential accidents in my life. Somebody would get 50 cents, the cars behind them would want to go around, come out, the light had changed. What a disaster.
Yep.
And I think the other questions were there any rights of way on this property? And I remember reading the deeds. It is absolutely private property. This is just him being a benefactor, allowing this kind of service which so many people use.
Right. And it's a double-edged sword, because if we want to do a no trespass on an individual that's lingering in the mall constantly and everything else, the paperwork to do that is a no trespass order that has to be signed by every manager on the mall property. For an individual, we need to find out the address of that individual, and it's very, very difficult to do. But I will tell you that in 2 instances, when I've been informed that there's somebody out there, I called the dispatch of SKPD, and one instance I was going into Panera Bread. I pulled into the parking lot with my 5-year-old granddaughter to have lunch. I saw the person out there. I called the police from my cell phone. I parked the car. I walked in, and before I was waited on to place my order, the SKPD was out there, and the person was moved on. And both instances, SKPD was very prompt and courteous, and they took care of that. And Hal's will call me as well, saying they're out there, and I'll respond. So that was a big problem, it's one of the only areas in town where there's a little median where they can stand at a red light and not be in the middle of the road. There's a little median there, and so that was why it was the place that they went to. So that's how we handle that in the town. You want to say any more? Was I wrong in anything?
Just 2 things that I'd add, so we have sort of a wrap-up on the panhandler piece of it. First, Chief Jaber did send out an order this afternoon, so the patrols are aware of our need to be present more. The other thing about the panhandlers, though, is construction on Old Tower Hill Road is scheduled to begin in a week or 2. There's just not going to be any place for panhandlers for the summer and into October. So I think with the heightened enforcement and just the physical difficulty that folks are going to have trying to panhandle there, we should see the problem go away. We're going to stay on top of it, though.
Can I ask, what has Welcome House said about the people they have tried to counsel? Have they, do they know where those people are coming from? Are they riding the bus?
No.
I mean, my suspicion is we have this problem in Kennedy Plaza, too.
1% of the ridership, that's what we were told today, 1% of the RIPTA ridership are classified in that way.
So this is not,
It was a perceived
Yeah.
where they came from.
yes.
But whether they were from Peacedale or Pawtucket, it didn't really matter. And that's why
The perception.
we're not gonna try to move the bus stop. We're gonna try to let everything stay right there. And the next question for everybody out there is Planet Fitness is going in, and it's under construction, and I think it's targeted to open somewhere in the neighborhood of July 1. And a couple of months beforehand, there'll be a trailer out in the parking lot, a temporary trailer, where people can sign up and get a deal for pre-ordering.
Next time you talk to RIPTA, why don't you ask them to put some electronic signs up there that would announce when the next bus is coming, because so few people in this community, it costs $2 to ride the express bus from here to Providence. There is no way you can get from here to Providence for less than $2. And the express bus gets you right in there, and you're right in Kennedy Center. If you're going to the Rhode Island Foundation, which I do a lot, you're there. If you're going to the convention center, you're there. So it would be good if we could use this opportunity to begin to correct people's perception about using the bus. And I think you might do that if the bus stop itself looked a little better, which is RIPTA's problem, I know. Or if RIPTA put an electronic thing up that said next bus arriving in something number of minutes or
That's
whatever.
something that didn't come up today.
Well, I'll tell you what, there are just too many people in this town who get on the road and drive to Boston, Providence, and they could take the $2 bus.
And there's one extra bus coming back from Providence that doesn't go off in the morning. Found that out today, too, so that if you had to stay later, there's 6 express buses that come up. Anything else, Jim?
Oh, thank you.
You came to the right place then. Very timely.
Really good news, because the retail environment now is brutal throughout the country.
Exactly.
Not well-capitalized companies. I mean, you've got Panera, you have Staples, but Shaw's, Netherlands, but you always worry about some of the other smaller stores in there.
Absolutely. And we hope I think we have somebody that's just about to agree to go into the old Payless shop.
Is the mall building locked at night? Does it, so it closes at some, so what happens to the people, I mean, in the past, what happened to people on the benches?
They know.
Oh, they know, and they get up.
Yeah, it's actually, they're actually my employees that unlock it every morning, sweep the parking lot, clean up, and then turn the lights on, turn the music on. And at night, I have a couple of people that go in, clean the bathrooms, clean all the public area, empty the trash, and lock the lights up.
One last thing. You have to love the logo for Planet Fitness. Non-judgmental.
We're looking forward to them. I think their average store has 1,000 people in it a day, their average location. I heard that today. Okay. Next item on the agenda, Grossmont Power of Place Summit, March 27th.
I'm signed up to go.
Okay. Where is it? When is it?
It's at the convention center, I'll take the bus, it'll cost me $2.
Is that round trip or each way?
No, it's each way. And actually, I am, as an old person, I could ride for $1 each way, but I don't because it just seems it's criminal. So it could be $2. But anyway, and it takes you right to the entrance to the conference, which is in the convention center, and then you come right down the escalator to get back on the bus and go home. So it's the 27th actually comes off, because you know there's a COVID-19 problem. And this meeting, I go every year, but this meeting is a good one because it's about transit redevelopment of malls and placemaking. It's called something like placemaking. But anyway, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. I mean, the communities that present there are astronomical. I mean, there are projects, there are just things that people have thought to do and have found the funding and the wherewithal to do these things, and it really makes me sad because I come back here and I think, oh, why can't we do that? But I recommend it. It's good. I can report back on it if nobody else wants to go. But I only go to, it's a plenary session in the morning and a talk at lunch, and those two things are for everybody. And then there's a morning session where you have to choose a meeting you go to, and in the afternoon it's the same thing. So being only one person, I can only go to two of those sessions. So if anybody else wants to go, I'll tell you what I'm going to, and you can go to something else.
9 in the morning?
Oh, no. That's why you got to take that express bus.
No, it starts at 7:30, 8:05.
Yeah, it starts at, I think registration starts at 8 or something like that. But but what I always enjoy, I mean, I no longer do the Coalition for Transportation stuff, and I do a little RIPTA work, as you can see. But I'm not as involved as I used to be. But for me, it's a great time. I see all kinds of lots of people I know, and so that those times when it's not actually the meeting, from 8:15 on.
Just for the record, I have an employee that comes down every day from Providence. He takes a bus into Kennedy Plaza, and then he comes down on the bus, gets right off in front of my place, and every afternoon when he's done at work, he'll go back and as the employer, we buy his monthly pass and give it to him every month. Comes to us and to help him, and he's a very valuable staff member of our company.
Does he have to change from Providence and go somewhere else?
He goes into Providence, then transfers at Kennedy Plaza to 66 to come back down. And depending on whether it's
66 is us. It's not coming.
coming back down, I think it's 66 that he takes, because it's not an express back, because he might be getting out at 2:30 or 3:30, and the express is, and he's going back, so there's no express back.
But my question is Kennedy Plaza, is that his last stop on RIPTA? He's not.
No, he gets on at Kennedy Plaza and goes to his house on Hartford Avenue or wherever he lives. But so I do know how important the public transportation is, and as an employer, we actually pay for that bus pass, the monthly bus pass.
It has a program that allows employers to get a discount on it. Maybe not you, because maybe you only have one person who uses it, but there is the EcoPass. The URI students can ride the bus for free.
It's a problem when we're working a holiday and they're on a holiday schedule. He can't get in for a couple hours and that kind of thing. But we make it work. All right, next topic. This is something that is near and dear to my heart because you guys have been beating on me that we haven't finalized it and we haven't really discussed it. The 5 wish list ideas that everybody was supposed to submit. I don't have my hard copy because I don't. I don't need to go over it, but
Okay.
that's what it is. Joanne.
This is Joanne's list.
Right. Jay asked for it to be added to the agenda tonight because we haven't really discussed it. And then Joanne followed up the email with, because everybody was supposed to submit to Joanne, and she's not here tonight, but she forwarded that on in email form, what she had received by the different members. So I wanted to go over
Sent this out
that.
in November.
Right. That's when we were talking about it, and she sent it back out in a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe. But yeah. So let's talk about that. And if you have the only hard copy here, you can run the meeting.
Well, I don't know.
Or start telling what people, because everybody doesn't know what everybody, unless you guys read the email when Joanne sent it out in February.
Patty,
if you'd like.
Patty sent some items in, and I sent some items in, so I don't know whether anybody else.
I think Joanne did, and I think somebody else did, too.
I did.
Yeah,
Yes.
I did.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, Tom?
I purposely didn't, because I wanted this to come from the committee, not me.
Yeah. So the problem in talking about them is that they are,
All over the place.
they're all over the place. And so I really think we ought to take this, add the people we didn't have from the last time, and put it off to next week and assign everybody to read it and think about whether where there are commonalities in the kinds of things that were suggested. Because I can't talk about it. Brian says he wants the neighborhood guild open on Saturdays, and Richard's got 5 things here, and Tom has 3 points here, and Henry has.
Yeah, as I recall, we were asked, what would make you happy? And I think that was the quote. And that's why what I did there was real wish list stuff.
It was, I think the assignment was 5 things that you would like to see happen that would cause economic development. It wasn't just stuff, I mean, I think when I read Brian's, I thought maybe I misunderstood the assignment, which would be fully possible. Because he just wrote neighborhood guilds open on Saturdays.
But that's good. I mean.
That's good. No, that's good, but, so it might be useful, maybe what we should do now is decide what the assignment was, and then.
And then enhance it.
and
Yeah.
then- Yeah, and then, but not talk about it tonight, because I think it's.
No, but I think it would help other people that haven't sent in to know what other people were thinking, so that we can hone down on what way we want them to go, and I still want to hear the people's ideas. I mean, that's what's beautiful about this committee, is that we come from
I'm not
a variety.
arguing-
We're not just stacked.
I'm not arguing that, I'm just saying that I think at the stage that this exists in now, when I am the only person with a hard copy and the ideas are all over the map, that tonight is not the night when we can do it, and I don't even have hard copies of their 2 comments. So what I'm suggesting is we get those 2 comments that have come in since the deadline. We ask Joanne to put them in her sheet. She resubmits this to everybody, and between now and the next meeting, everybody reads everybody's comments, and then we talk about it next time. Because it's not a topic we can talk about now. It's really.
Fair enough, because I hardly remember what I wrote there.
I-
I didn't read anyone else's
I had
comments.
to reread what I'd written, and I sort of wondered about it, so.
I just knew that they were all over the place, to having like a big box retailer in town, to open the guild on Saturdays.
So do you want me to tell Joanne that she's to pick up, I didn't see your comments. You probably. See, yeah, okay. Because you're not supposed to send it to all of us in any case, so I'll have her get in touch with you if she doesn't have them, and I'll ask Joanne to add the 2 that came in after the deadline to her list, and then she can resubmit it to everybody, and we can talk about it next time. I'll take care of being in touch with her.
And everybody understands why I'm not submitting anything, why I want it to come from the committee. It's not a Larry Fish deal.
I don't see why you should, are you part of the committee? I don't think you should think of yourself as so superior to the committee that
I'm
you
not.
can't do the work. Come on, Larry. Submit 5 things that you think would lead to economic
If the committee wants me to give 5 things,
Yes, we do.
all right, I'll give 5 things.
Okay, that's
Spit 'em out.
It might be really diverse now,
good. Okay,
okay?
all right.
Other items of interest.
Yeah. What's that? There's always something else. Life is interesting. My understanding is that there's a chance that the high school is going to be sold, and the high school may move to Curtis Corner Road. There's a strong potential of that happening. I think that the town ought to really get its act together as to how it wants to rezone that high school property so that we can get what we want there, or what the town wants there.
There are some limitations on what can be done on certain parts of the parcel. Why don't you enlighten them on that without taking...
This is
an hour?
unfortunately a story that I'm getting way too familiar with. So, the school committee on January 28th voted to pursue a Stage 2 application for state funding reimbursement for a school facilities program that would have the high school relocated from Columbia Street to Curtis Corner. The preliminary work that has to be done, the investigation that has to be done to see whether or not that's possible is not complete. But the deadline for submitting a Stage 2 application and being eligible for consideration of reimbursement this year is September 19th. So the way this project is going is that the investigation about the site and the development of the plan for the reconstruction or addition to the existing Curtis Corner Middle School are going on more or less simultaneously. It's not exactly simultaneous. We're digging test pits this weekend to see if there's ledge, to see if there's water, that kind of thing. But the architectural and engineering firm that the school committee has been working with, RGB, is sort of plowing along, putting together the application narratives, developing the drawings that are going to be needed for renderings that are going to be needed to show the state what the committee intends to build, and all of the sort of professional engineering and environmental assessments, all that work is proceeding now. We really won't know until late spring what the result of all the professional investigations is. We won't know what the engineers found. Well, we will know the test pit stuff, but we won't know the results of a analysis of the wetlands. We won't know necessarily, we should know soon, but we have not heard, what the real impact on traffic on Curtis Corner, on South Road, on Route 108 is going to be. So there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. But the school committee's preference is for that site. They want to put the high school there, which does create a challenge with regard to Columbia Street. It's a very large, sturdy building. It's not, based on some preliminary inquiries, it's not going to be an easy adaptive reuse. We know that if you were going to keep it as a school, there's tens of millions of dollars worth of repairs that have to be made, HVAC system, bathrooms, if you were to keep it as a school. But to change its use into, let's say, condos, the expenses are going to be greater because you still have to do the HVAC system and all of the other things, the systems in the school that need to be repaired, but you also now have to put a toilet in every 15 feet. And put a partition wall so that you have condo unit A and B and the bathroom for A and B. It's an expensive proposition. It's a 3-story building. It's concrete and reinforced concrete and brick. It's going to be a difficult building. So there's just whether or not somebody's going to be able to do that project economically is an open question. We've been developing a request for qualifications or a request for information. We haven't actually decided what we're going to put out, but we hope to put out a request for something, qualifications or information. Probably we're going to settle on a request for information this month to go out to the development community and say, this is what we've got. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on what could be done here? Now, RFIs tend to get people kicking tires. They don't tend to share much information because there's nothing in it for them. They're not going to win the bid. There is no bid. You get some information, but you don't necessarily get a whole hell of a lot. Still, we need to start a conversation with people who might be interested. We're also looking into trying to find an institutional user. You know, I'd love to get the Community College of Rhode Island in that building. It's not going to be a tax generator, but it would be a really good, appropriate use for that building. So we'll explore that. We've got a meeting coming up with those folks soon. But if there isn't an economically viable reuse, and if we can't find an institutional user, the best approach may be, as you know, painful as it is, may be to clear the site and then make the land available for something else. That's a really long slog. We get a lot of conversations to have. We got to decide what the community wants to see there. We have to decide what the neighbors want to see there. There are a couple, and Larry has alluded to this, a couple of other sort of ripples in all of this. The high school site is actually 3 parcels. It's what I call the Maori parcel, which is the parcel that the high school is on, the Hazard parcel, which is where the Hazard School is located, and then the Hazard Fields parcel. There are deed restrictions on the Maori parcel and the Hazard School parcel. There's a grant restriction on the Hazard Fields parcel. The Hazard Fields parcel is a voluntarily given covenant by the town of South Kingstown to the federal government saying we will not use it except for open space fields. That covenant is the same sort of covenant that we've got over here on Town Farm Park, and the chances of getting the federal government to let the town off of that covenant twice are slim to none. So I think that for all practical purposes, those fields are going to remain open space no matter what. There is no economic development opportunity there. The Maori and the hazard deed restrictions are actually voided by an act of the state legislature from 1987. In 1987, the state legislature said old deed restrictions go away. They go away because there's a public policy in favor of not having people who are long past dead deciding how future generations are going to develop the community. I use a line sometimes when describing this concept from Thomas Jefferson, who said, "The world belongs in usufruct and trust to the living. We own it for the benefit of our children, and the dead have no claims to it." That's the policy that the state legislature was, advancing. And things change. The Maori estate was a wonderful idea. She gave the land to the town. The high school could be built there, and if we stopped using it, then that land would be sold, and we'd set up a scholarship fund. A scholarship fund for colleges in 1946 was, a pretty easy thing. This building, if it's a tear down, it's got negative value. I mean, it's a real problem. Maybe there's some value, but Bank of America is now the holder of the interest that was vested, or inchoate interest. It wasn't actually vested. The inchoate interest held by the Wakefield Trust. Wakefield Trust no longer exists. It was acquired by Bank of America. Bank of America is not going to demolish a building, refurbish the land, figure out who can. It's just not going to happen that way. So even if they could, the other problem with this is the state legislature's statutory provision voided those prior covenants. It's not that you don't have to honor them. They don't exist for me. I can't give it to Bank of America because if I did, any vendor or anybody who wanted the building for themselves could say, why did you do that? How could you give the Bank of America the keys? That was a voided provision. You had no right to do that. So I'm in a sort of tricky situation on that front, and we're going to have to work through that. But my point is, figuring out what the neighborhood wants is going to be a matter of working through a number of steps. We got to figure out whether or not there's a developer who has an idea. Then we're going to have to figure out, if not, is the neighborhood, willing to live with a vacant building? I doubt it. I certainly don't think that's a good idea. Is the neighborhood willing to see the building demolished? I think that there are folks who probably wouldn't like to see that.
Is there a ballpark figure for how many condos you could put in there on 3 levels?
Yeah, we did a yield. I'm not going to remember the number well. I think we were between, it's in the neighborhood of 150, 200 units.
250,000 square feet.
I mean, that sounds like it could be economically viable for a developer.
We'll see. I mean, all we can do is ask, and we'll see. If
Maybe
there's somebody out there
cheaper
that
to
might
knock
be
it
great.
down and build new.
Could be, but that's not very
Maybe.
sustainable.
I guess that's for the developers
So
to figure out.
that price is easier to discern. All you got to do is ask a demolition company to go out, look at the size of the building, look at the age. They know what's, demolition companies know what's in the
Reinforced
building.
concrete is not that
Right.
easy, though.
So we've asked, we know what the cost of demolition is. It's between $2 and $3 million. Yeah.
That's to haul everything away too, huh?
Yeah.
It's good.
What, what happens if it is voted down? What's Plan B?
So I think there are 2 ways that Curtis Corner relocation unravels. The one is that there's some impediment that just is insurmountable. It is too wet. The environmental doesn't work. The traffic study shows that we're going to have 20-minute delays on 108 for half a day or something. I mean, whatever. There's that kind of stuff. The other way is that it is submitted as the application, the vote on the bond referendum fails. Those 2 things lead to 2 different results. I think that if we know in late spring that Curtis Corner is not viable, then you can shift back to Columbia Street renovation. And I don't want to be optimistic. I'm not sure you hit the September deadline, but you can have something for a February submission at any rate, February of 2021 now. If a bond question is on the ballot in November and it fails, you're probably not going to hit, you're not going to hit November, obviously. The application for September is reviewed and considered in November, but if the bond fails, the state's not going to approve the project that the voters, what do I know? Maybe they would. But I also think you're not going to have enough time between November and February. you're probably looking about at a loss of a year on that project.
The one thing, and I'll add my 2 cents with it here. The one thing that has not been discussed at all, to the best of my knowledge, is regionalization with Narragansett or other school districts, which I think in this day and age is really unfortunate that there has been no talks with Narragansett, because I think they, with their facilities and our current facilities, I think $84 million could go a long way in a regional way, and then your numbers in operating will be a lot less. There's one superintendent, not two, et cetera, down the line. And that's why everybody says sustainability and regionalization is the way to go in this state with its 39 cities and towns, but nobody really has done it recently.
Keep in mind, Larry, that when I went to high school, Narragansett was in that school. A third of my class was from Narragansett.
Right. So, I mean,
There were over 900 of us in that school then.
and I know the athletic facilities over in Narragansett have just been redone and right there at the high school. And I mean, I think there's enough merit to warrant have a coffee and discuss it, conversation, right? And that, to the best of my knowledge, hasn't been done, and I don't think it will, because the bus has already left the station, and it will have to fail before they come back to revisit that, and that's okay. I'm disappointed that it hasn't happened, because I think due diligence would have demanded that that be done, but it wasn't. We have no control over that. We're not the school department. They can do their own thing. But I think that is if it fails, or if there's a hiccup along the road, I hope that they at least investigate that and have a cup of coffee. All right? Can we kill that one now?
Can I-
Any other items of interest?
Yeah, Jay, Parker sent around this afternoon this ethical considerations and ex parte contacts. Did everybody read it?
Yep.
Good, because I thought Amy did a nice job of explaining to us again what we need to think about as a committee, and I think this is really important in a little town where a lot of us wear a lot of different hats, so I was glad to see it. I don't know whether there's anything to discuss or not. If everybody read it?
I did not. It was sent around electronically?
Yeah, it's an email.
I missed it.
It just came this afternoon, so it's not, but look for it, Jason Parker. I would just say everybody should read it.
Bob, do you have any input on this?
I'm sorry?
This memorandum from Solo and Tights having to do with ex
Amy.
parte.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you can share with us about this?
Pretty straightforward.
It's-
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's just Amy recapping the rules, the ethical rules under which all public bodies operate in Rhode Island, and just a reminder. We haven't done a training on ethics for boards and committees, I understand, for a couple of years, and, this is just a reminder.
I guess we're supposed to set our schedule of meetings for the rest of the year. All right? We're going to keep our first
Yes.
Thursday of the month.
Please, 'cause otherwise-
I know. We've, in some years, we've taken the summers off, and some years we haven't. I think this group wants to work through the summer. That was been my feel, as opposed to in the past, so if that's the way it is, that's fine with me. The one meeting date that I know I won't be here is the first Thursday of the month in October, is my anniversary, and I will not be here on that day. So if you want to switch that day and have me there, that's up to the committee.
And I won't be either, by the way.
I won't be here that day either. I'll be in Stockholm.
Well,
hope.
So what about the second Thursday?
Well, I don't know whether the room is available and that kind of stuff.
We have to, no, I'll be in Berlin. But you don't need.
That's the 8th. Planning board, maybe?
You can always meet in the living room.
No, I... Other than October 1st, I thought everything, we went around the holidays this year, and I think we hit. You know, sometimes we're right before, and sometimes we're right after. But,
Well, in July, we're right before the 4th.
right,
So I'm looking at the second Thursday of what month?
October,
the 8th.
it's the 8th.
I'm not available.
You're not then?
No.
I'm not there yet.
You're not, you're still out? All right, so when are you guys,
Well, that's okay, because then if you move to the 3rd week, then I have a board meeting,
all right, so what about the week before? Or we could do no meeting in October. We can
so.
post
Or
it.
you could schedule it for the 8th, and Tom and I will be there.
Oh, we already have 2 people that aren't there. I think we could keep it on October 1st for the time being, and then when it gets a little closer to it in August, we see what's on our plate, and we can just blow it off, or that kind of thing. Let's just leave it, but we all know that October's gonna be a problem. Is that all right?
What about the 4th of July? What's
That's 2
the
days
second.
before, it's July 2nd, which is a Thursday, and people are going, you know, it'll be celebrated, I think, on the Monday.
So you're locked in for this room on the first
Thursday.
day.
That's what it's always been,
Yep,
so it should be,
so you're locked in.
We like,
all right, and we'll keep July 2nd, because, you know, we should be far enough away from the 4th and when it's gonna be celebrated and everything else. It might be celebrated on the 4th, which is a Saturday, but Thursday night is still all right. And again, it's not like we have to post these things months in advance. They just want to have it for planning purposes. And if we want to, in May, we want to change it, we change it. We've done that before, and it really screws up Susan. All right? Anything else on anybody's mind?
What time's the meeting, Monday?
7 o'clock. I'd say that the item, the new item on the agenda, the report from the committees will be probably about 45 minutes to an hour into the meeting, so don't get stressed if you're running late or anything.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Henry. Sorry to do that to you.
I tell you, Susan, it's gonna be PowerPoint. I get tongue-tied if it isn't anything else.
If it makes you feel any better, my wife wanted to leave this morning for vacation to go see her grandkids, and I made her stay, and we have to leave, the flight is 6:15 tomorrow morning, so I'm paying dearly to have this meeting and be here tonight. So, I wasn't going to push it off till Monday night. Yeah, see kids and grandkids. Hearing nothing, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor, say aye. Good night. Good to see you, Jim.